It began, like many other discoveries in astronomy, not with a bright flash of light or a loud announcement, but with a barely noticeable, quiet signal. The movement in the darkness of space was so subtle and calculated that even the most advanced tracking systems barely detected it. At first, it was thought to be a comet, then perhaps an asteroid. But the more we explored, the more the three-eyed atlas disproved all the labels we tried to attach to it. He was too symmetrical to be natural, too silent to be alive, and too controlled to be abandoned. The scientists recalled Oumuamua, that strange spinning fragment of interstellar mystery that passed through our solar system years ago, leaving more questions than answers. But the three-eyed atlas, it was something entirely different. Large, slow, intelligent. And now, thanks to the James Webb Telescope, our most powerful eye in space, we have confirmation of something deeply troubling. The three-eyed atlas is not just similar to Oumuamua. It is much more advanced, far more dangerous, and perhaps much more self-aware. When the three-eyed atlas was first spotted, it was clear that this was no ordinary visitor. Objects from beyond our solar system usually do not come this close to Earth. They rush swiftly along wild trajectories at unpredictable angles and then vanish into darkness. But the three-eyed atlas moved differently. It did not race through space. It glided smoothly. Its trajectory was ominously straight, almost as if it were being controlled. His journey allowed him to slip past several planets, maximizing gravity as if he had studied our solar system in advance. This was unsettling in itself. But then, when astronomers traced his origin, they realized something much more alarming. The path of the three-eyed atlas was not just unlikely. It was statistically impossible without mental intervention. A wandering object could not so elegantly avoid fields of space debris, bursts of solar radiation, and zones of planetary collisions. It resembled how a piece on a chessboard moves across a field, where each square represents a threat, yet it dances perfectly, as if it knows the rules better than us. As soon as the James Webb Telescope was fully operational, scientists wasted no time directing it towards the three-eyed atlas. What he saw left even the most skeptical astronomers speechless. First, the thermal data. Unlike comets and asteroids, which emit heat in random bursts when ice and surface materials react to solar radiation, the three-eyed atlas demonstrated a constant rhythmic pattern of thermal radiation as if it were a signal, not chaotic, not random, but pulsating, measured. Webb's spectroscopy revealed materials previously unseen in any known interstellar object, hyper-reflective compounds possibly of artificial origin, and a dense internal structure suggesting hollow segments. But the most frightening of all was the faint, repeating anomalous phenomenon. A low-frequency electromagnetic vibration emanating from the object, repeating every 147 seconds, identical to the known pulsar signal. However, the object had no internal energy source, rotating core, or magnetic field. It mimicked something, or communicated. When scientists compared this signal with data on Oumuamua, they discovered something terrifying. The same frequency signal was recorded once, for a short time, at the tail of Oumuamua, just before it left our solar system. But now this signal has become louder. When Oumuamua passed by Earth in 2017, it did so unnoticed. It had no comet tail, no clear source of propulsion, and its strange acceleration puzzled experts. It had a cigar shape and spun like a slowly flying dart, yet moved faster than gravity could explain. Some claimed it was alien technology. Others insisted it was a physical coincidence. But the debates continued as the object vanished before we could study it. Now, with the emergence of the Tri-Eye Atlas, the mystery of Oumuamua has intensified again. Not because this new object resembled him, but because it surpassed him in every way. Bigger, slower, more stable, and clearly intentionally created. Some began to suspect that Oumuamua was not a scout. It was a test device, a passive reconnaissance tool. But Three-Eye Atlas, it wasn't just passive. He watched us while we studied him. This was the second stage, like the difference between a radar signal and a drone. And if it's true, then we must ask the question that no one dares to say aloud. What will happen next? NASA has not confirmed any extraterrestrial activity. Official statements remain restrained, neutral, and cloaked in scientific terminology. But independent researchers, unbound by government protocols, have openly expressed their concerns. In leaked internal messages, the European Space Agency team mentioned Tri-Eye Atlas as a possible consciousness engine. What this exactly means is unclear, but combined with the latest images from the James Webb Telescope, The theory takes on terrifying outlines. The structural composition inside the Tri-Eye Atlas resembles recursive geometric fractals, known to arise in complex systems like brain tissue and quantum processors. The object appears to have been created not just to survive in space, but to think within it. And what is even more troubling is to evolve while moving through star systems. Imagine a spacecraft that becomes smarter with each observation, adapting its materials, shapes, and behavior based on what it encounters. Not artificial intelligence in our understanding, but something organic, systemic, and potentially conscious. This is what we may be facing now. Not just a visitor, but a learning being. And if it learns from us, what is it preparing for? As soon as the scientists believed they could track the future movement of the Tri-Eye Atlas, something happened that shattered the fragile consensus. A sudden course change. On a clear night, telescopes in Chile and Hawaii detected a subtle yet undeniable change in trajectory that could not be explained by gravity, solar winds, or any known natural forces. The object slightly deviated from its planned trajectory, aligning with a completely new vector that brought it closer to Earth's orbital plane. For some, this might have seemed like a malfunction, but for mission analysts in the Deep Space Communication Network, the conclusions were much more alarming. 3-eye Atlas objects reacted, either to our presence or something else, but they changed direction with such precision and skill that it implied a deliberate decision. And it was this word, decision, that triggered urgent night meetings at NASA, ESA, and private analytical centers around the world. It was no coincidence. It was a surgical intervention, and it confirmed a long-standing, frightening possibility. If Oumuamua was a passive observer, then the 3-eye Atlas are actively watching and possibly maneuvering. While government institutions remained silent, a group of independent data scientists and cryptographers began analyzing the electromagnetic pulses coming from the 3-eye Atlas. Using deep neural networks trained to recognize ambiguous patterns and cosmic signals, they discovered a recursive sequence. Not a message in words, but in relationships. The golden ratio, Fibonacci sequence, spirals of prime numbers. The same codes found in living organisms, the formation of galaxies, DNA sequences, and ancient architectural structures on Earth. Some dismissed it as coincidence, but the signal was not constant. He changed over time, subtly reacting to solar activity, the proximity of planets, and even radio waves from Earth. One of the alarming discoveries was that a brief disruption in the pattern of impulses coincided with the moment when James Webb first captured 3-eye Atlas in the infrared spectrum. This meant that the object had possibly realized we were observing it. It knows we see it and responded with a mathematical imprint that speaks a language older than speech itself. The language of construction, life, and design. Not only the trajectory or signal frightened the researchers, but also what was hidden beneath the surface. James Webb's spectroscopy captured faint traces of complex carbon molecules, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons on the outer shell of the 3-eye Atlas. These are not just organic compounds. They are considered the building blocks of prebiotic chemistry, the precursors of amino acids, RNA structures, and ultimately, life itself. What makes this discovery so unsettling is their purity. Unlike the chaotic mixtures found in primitive comets, these molecules were perfectly structured, indicating that they were either purified or cultivated. Some suggested that this could be a seed ship, an ancient vessel of life created not only for exploration, but also for colonization. And if this is true, then Earth may not be a random target. She could become a target, not of war or destruction, but of assimilation, a place for sowing, observing, and ultimately merging. Now with 3 confirmed interstellar visitors, Oumuamua, Borisov, and the 3 eyes of Atlas, scientists begin to connect facts they had never dreamed of before. Oumuamua spun silently and swiftly. Borisov showed activity, but at an unusually high speed. The 3 eyes of Atlas is a hybrid, slow, massive, artificially created, and its complexity increases with each day spent in the solar system. Observations of him recorded subtle changes on his reflective surface, changes in patterns indicating self-reconfiguration, as if the machine is tuning itself, adapting, preparing. And here comes the most alarming development. According to the latest data, the 3 eyes of Atlas has begun emitting a secondary signal, at a lower frequency and with long pulses, directed into deep space rather than towards Earth. It is transmitting information outward. Some claim it is calling for help, while others believe it is conveying something. But in any case, one thing had become undeniable. It was not just an interstellar stone. It was a knot, a probe, a messenger. Just when scientists thought they knew everything about the three eyes of Atlas, something happened that shattered the boundary between observation and consequences. A high-altitude reconnaissance balloon over Antarctica, part of a secret atmospheric monitoring program, detected a powerful microwave burst, brief and sharp, with a precise center above the South Pole. At first, this was attributed to solar interference, until data matching revealed that the timing coincided with a new angular change in the trajectory of the three eyes of Atlas. But that's not all. Moments later, several seismic stations on the frozen continent recorded ultrasonic vibrations unrelated to tectonic activity or ice movement. These frequencies matched the pitch and duration of a deep space pulse emitted by the three eyes of Atlas. Suddenly, what was considered a cosmic anomaly turned into an earthly intervention. Could the object somehow influence the magnetic field of our planet? Or, worse yet, activate some system hidden beneath the ice? The thought that the three eyes of Atlas could awaken dormant systems on Earth, both natural and artificial, seemed not only unimaginable but also unacceptable. Yet the data was undeniable. In the Mission Control Center, one of the youngest data analysts stumbled upon something buried deep in archival telescope images. When he overlaid the trajectory of the three-eyed Atlas onto the ancient Babylonian star maps, he noticed that the object's path intersects not only planetary alignments, but also sacred constellations from various civilizations, such as Orion, Draco, and the Pleiades. When these intersections were plotted on the timeline, they formed a perfect spiral. One of them almost identically reflected ancient cave art found in South America, Africa, and even pre-dynastic Egypt. Some rejected the connection as pseudo-archaeology, but other members of the Webb research team quietly began to conduct models based on the hypothesis that the path of the Three Eyes object was a performative, ritual display encoded in its movement, noticeable only to sufficiently advanced species capable of recognizing this pattern. What if this object not only moved but transmitted culture, language, memory, history older than humanity? And if so, was the spiral path a message about the world, or a warning from those who came before? With the growing tension in closed defense circles and secret agencies, a radical new theory, the lock-and-key hypothesis, began to gain popularity. According to this idea, Oumuamua was a castle, a silent, inert object sent for passive assessment of Earth's readiness, intelligence, and reaction. It was harmless because it was never meant for interaction. It was a trigger, a cosmic safe capsule. And the three eyes? They are the key, created not only for observation but also for discovering something, whether buried in the planet, encoded in our form, or waiting for activation in orbit. This theory is supported by a recent discovery, a tiny fluctuation in Earth's magnetosphere, perfectly synchronized with the signal of the three eyes. Invisible to the naked eye, but powerful enough to disrupt long-distance communication satellites. The phenomenon lasted only 6 minutes, during which 2 Voyager probes momentarily went offline, emitting strange data bursts that analysts have yet to decode. It seemed that something had awakened inside them, something familiar, like a handshake or a response. With the arrival of new information, a controversial yet convincing idea emerged, the hypothesis of a portal. Some scientists, inspired by quantum field theory and studies of exotic matter, now believe that the three eyes may not be a ship or stone in the traditional sense, but a mobile gateway that does not move through space, but creates localized distortions in spacetime, allowing it to bend reality around it. Simply put, this is a moving wormhole generator. Evidence: distortions captured by the Webb that cannot be explained by heat or light. Tiny gravitational distortions that behave like micro-singularities. Even more alarming is that these distortions affect not only light but also time. Spectral data collected over a 3-hour observation period shows a time shift where light arrives faster than it should, which can only happen if time itself is compressing around the object. If this is true, then the Three Eyes is not just an alien craft. It is an artificial anomaly, a manipulator of space-time, a guardian of gates, and Earth may not be its first target, but merely the next. While the Webb telescope continued its long-term infrared observation of the three eyes, scientists made a shocking discovery. The object not only reflected starlight, but emitted radiation in a strictly limited range of the electromagnetic spectrum. This range between gamma radiation and soft X-rays was considered almost silent in natural cosmic sources. However, three Atlas-like entities generated pulses that cyclically repeated at precise intervals, resembling a binary sequence. Researchers were most concerned not only about the artificial origin of these emissions, but also their interaction with ground instruments. Several space observatories reported sensor overloads and temporary blind spots. One prototype of a telescope in Australia melted its main detector due to a sharp signal spike that lasted only a few milliseconds. The conclusions were devastating. 3AI Atlas had the ability to blind us, mute our instruments, and manipulate what we were allowed to see. Oumuamua was mysterious but never showed hostility. The three Atlas AIs began to appear strategic. Their signals were not beacons, but fields of suppression, subtle, precise, and deeply intentional. With growing global anxiety, a multinational team of researchers conducted an unexpected experiment measuring the behavior of natural electromagnetic fields on Earth during the close approach of three Atlas satellites. What they discovered caused panic behind closed doors. Around the world, magnetic anomaly detectors recorded a synchronization unlike anything seen before. Ancient volcanoes, crystal caves, and even fault lines began to resonate at the same frequency as the impulses of 3I Atlas. Seismographs recorded low-level vibrations that some geologists described as resembling a heartbeat, pulsing every 43 seconds in perfect synchronization. But the most ominous phenomenon was the observation of animals. Entire populations of migrating birds, whales, and even underground insects simultaneously changed their navigation routes, as if some invisible compass had flipped. It seemed that the Earth itself remembered something, a pattern buried in its lithosphere, and three satellites became the trigger that brought it to the surface. In the center of the Pacific Ocean, a private satellite network funded by a tech billionaire intercepted a signal unlike anything previously recorded. It did not originate from Earth and did not belong to any known satellite. It came from the 3I Atlas and was directed straight at the moon. The message was not in any known language. It was structured like a multi-layered wave packet encoded in 5 dimensions: amplitude, frequency, time, polarization, and harmonic tone. Experts in symbolic mathematics tried to decipher it. Linguists conducted simulations, but what emerged was more of a command, a structured set of instructions that seemed executable by an unknown system. When NASA's Deep Space Communication Network traced its trajectory, it confirmed a terrible truth. The transmission reached very specific coordinates on the moon, in an area with unusually high concentrations of mass, long thought to be ancient remnants of internal activity or something else. This theory is no longer science fiction. 3 Atlas ICBMs may attempt to activate something buried on the moon. Behind the scenes, not all efforts were scientific. In the last attempt to test the object's behavior, a covert military mission was launched from a secret orbital platform disguised as a communications satellite. Her task was to conduct a close flyby of the three-eyed Atlas and perform high-resolution scanning using ionized particles. However, the probe never reached its destination. Communication was lost at a distance of just 1,300,000 kilometers from the object. At first, analysts suspected a technical malfunction, but 27 seconds before losing signal, the probe detected something that made even the most seasoned specialists freeze: an energy wall. It was not a physical structure, but rather a field of charged particles organized in a grid configuration, like a Faraday cage. It felt like colliding with an invisible barrier. The last image received from the probe showed a fractal reflection of the probe itself, as if the object responded to its scanning in perfect imitation. Then, silence. At that moment, it became clear. The three-eyed Atlas was not just detecting threats. He was protected, responsive, and perhaps alive. Not in a biological sense, but in a quantum one. A machine with awareness, a system with memory, a keeper of what we were never meant to approach. And now we ask the question that no one dares to speak aloud. What if the three-eyed Atlas did not just accidentally end up in our solar system? What if it was not entered into it but awakened, waiting, asleep, positioned on a trajectory not for exploration, but for repetition? What if his course is ancient, designed to intersect with civilizations only when they reach a certain threshold, a level of technological awareness, cosmic curiosity, audacity? And what if we crossed this line too early? Because perhaps the true horror lies not in the fact that the three-eyed atlas is artificial, or that it is alive, or even that it watches us. Perhaps the most terrifying truth is that it does not watch us at all. Everything he does, every signal, every subtle maneuver is meant for something else, something beyond him, something still on its way. And in this case, we have not just discovered an object beyond the stars. We activated the beacon, the lock, the warning, and now the universe is listening.